What if everything we understand about the true nature of reality is fundamentally flawed, based on an experiment so profound, so utterly bizarre, that it was intentionally suppressed, wiped from the public record, and only whispered about in the deepest, most secure corridors of academia? What if in 1968 a team of scientists pushing the boundaries of quantum mechanics stumbled upon a revelation so unsettling, so paradigm-shifting, that its implications were deemed too dangerous for humanity? Welcome to the story of the Bell test anomaly, a quantum leap that was forgotten, or perhaps made to be forgotten. To unravel this suppressed truth, we must first dive into the strange, counterintuitive world of quantum mechanics, a realm where particles can be in multiple places at once, where observing something changes its very nature, and where cause and effect seem to lose their deterministic grip. For decades, physicists grappled with the observer effect, this unsettling notion that the act of measurement influences the outcome. Einstein himself called it spooky action at a distance, rejecting the idea that particles could be instantaneously connected across vast stretches of space. He believed there must be hidden variables, some underlying classical explanation for these quantum oddities. This intellectual battle ultimately led to John Stuart Bell's groundbreaking theorem in 1964, a mathematical framework that established a definitive test. If quantum mechanics was correct and hidden variables didn't exist, then experiments should reveal correlations stronger than any classical theory could explain. This wasn't just about understanding tiny particles, it was about the very fabric of existence, about whether reality was objective and local, or something far more interconnected and mind-bending. The scientific community, though fascinated, was also deeply divided. Many hoped Bell's theorem would finally expose quantum mechanics as incomplete, that classical sanity would once again prevail. They were desperately searching for an anchor in a sea of quantum weirdness. This was the volatile, intellectually charged climate in which the events of 1968 would unfold, an environment primed for either confirmation or a complete paradigm-shattering upheaval. The implications of such a test were profound, affecting not just physics but philosophy, theology, and our very place in the universe. It was a test that promised to pull back the veil on existence itself, and what it revealed was far more terrifying than anyone anticipated. Now imagine a secluded laboratory, tucked away in the then communist bloc, deliberately chosen for its isolation and the brilliant, if maverick, minds it housed. Dr. Andrei Volkov and his team, spurred by a healthy skepticism of Western physics and a drive to independently verify Bell's theories, began constructing their own apparatus. Their setup was meticulously designed: two entangled photon sources, emitting particles in opposite directions, each traveling through a series of polarizers hundreds of meters apart before being detected. The goal was simple: measure the polarization of these entangled photons and determine if their correlations violated Bell's inequality. Initial runs were unremarkable, fitting within the expected statistical noise. Volkov, a man of meticulous detail and a cautious disposition, insisted on repeated rigorous calibration. But then it began. A subtle shift in the data, correlations that were just a fraction higher than theory predicted. The team, initially attributing it to equipment error, started to grow uneasy. They ran the experiment again and again. Each time the anomaly persisted, pushing the statistical boundary further into the forbidden zone established by Bell. It wasn't a flaw, it was a phenomenon. What they were seeing defied classical physics, utterly shattering any hope of hidden variables. The entangled particles separated by football fields seemed to know what the other was doing instantaneously, without any apparent link or signal. It was faster than light, impossible by every known law. The air in the lab grew heavy, not just with the hum of electronics, but with a growing dread. They started varying the conditions, introducing random number generators to dynamically adjust the polarizers, to close every possible loophole that could explain away the spooky action. Day after day, the results were consistent. The violation of Bell's inequality wasn't just theoretical, It was empirically proven, and it was accelerating past anything predicted. The data became undeniably clear, confirming what scientists for decades had dismissed as mere theoretical peculiarity, that reality itself is non-local, that particles are intrinsically connected in ways we cannot comprehend. Volkov, a man who built his career on empiricism, found himself staring at something that broke the very foundation of empirical understanding. The team was divided, awe mingled with disbelief, and a profound sense of fear started to permeate their work. What exactly was they seeing, and what did it mean for everything we believed about the universe? Then came the event. It was late October 1968. Volkov's team had been pushing for weeks, refining their experiment, increasing the distance between detectors to an unprecedented kilometer. They believed that if non-locality was real, its effects should remain constant regardless of distance. This particular run was meant to be their definitive, undeniable proof, their magnum opus. The data streamed in, and what they observed on their monitors wasn't just a violation of Bell's inequality, it was something far more profound, something that defied even standard quantum mechanics predictions. The correlation coefficients didn't just violate Bell's inequality, they spiked, reaching levels theoretically impossible for even entangled particles. For a fleeting sequence lasting only milliseconds, the correlation briefly exceeded the maximum possible value for any quantum entanglement, suggesting not just an instantaneous connection but an anticipatory one. It was as if each particle not only knew what the other was doing, but somehow knew what was about to be done to the other before it even happened. This wasn't merely spooky action at a distance, it was spooky action out of time. A brief, terrifying glimpse into a universe where cause and effect were, at certain fundamental levels, indistinguishable. The lead technician, a seasoned veteran, simply stared, mouth agape, before uttering a single chilling word: impossible. The room fell silent save for the rhythmic pulse of the detectors. Then, without warning, the entire system crashed. Not a power outage, not a software bug, but a complete simultaneous internal failure of every linked component. Simultaneously, an alarm blared, not from their internal system, but from an external building-wide sensor. Within minutes, the lab was swarming, not with maintenance crews, but with an elite silent team in unmarked uniforms. They moved with terrifying efficiency, confiscating every single piece of data, every scrap of paper, every single component of the experimental setup. Volkov and his team were detained, interrogated for days. Their findings were dismissed as faulty readings, equipment malfunction, a mass hallucination, even. The official report, meticulously crafted and released weeks later, concluded that the experiment yielded inconclusive results due to unforeseen technical instabilities. The scientists were reassigned, scattered to different unrelated fields, their careers effectively ended, their names scrubbed from records related to the Bell test. The specific results, the anticipatory correlations, vanished completely, wiped from any scientific database or archive. The Bell test anomaly, the forgotten quantum leap, was buried, deemed too dangerous, too destabilizing to the very edifice of scientific understanding, and perhaps too unsettling to humanity itself. They had seen something that wasn't just strange, but threatening to the very concept of linear reality. To this day, the official narrative stands. Bell's theorem was eventually confirmed by a multitude of experiments in the 1970s and 80s, each meticulously designed to close the loopholes, each demonstrating standard quantum non-locality. The Bell test anomaly of 1968, in its specific and truly horrifying details, simply does not exist in public scientific history. But what if those pristine, widely accepted results are simply the edited version, the approved story? What if the universe is far more interconnected, far more mind-bending, and far less bound by linear time than we are currently permitted to understand? The suppression of Volkov's discovery leaves us with a chilling question. Were the implications of an anticipatory universe simply too much for the societal structures and the scientific paradigms of the time? Did those in power fear a reality where cause and effect could blur, where free will might be an illusion, or where the very nature of consciousness could be irrevocably linked to this non-local dance across time and space. The story of the forgotten quantum leap isn't just about a suppressed experiment. It's a haunting testament to the fragility of our understanding and the lengths to which some will go to maintain the illusion of control over knowledge. It begs the question, what other fundamental truths are being held back from us, deemed too dangerous for the public's consumption, locked away in the annals of forgotten science? The silence around Volkov's work speaks volumes, a chilling whisper from a past that refuses to stay buried, reminding us that sometimes the most profound revelations are the ones we are never meant to truly discover.